In the Middle Ages, when a queen slipped up or sometimes just annoyed the wrong bishop, she might find her hair shaved off, her jewels confiscated, and her reputation dragged through the mud with all the subtlety of a medieval manure cart. And if you're wondering, wait, why hair? Well, hair was basically a medieval social media account. Long, flowing, shining locks screamed, "I'm wealthy, I'm fertile, I'm important." Cutting it off was like deleting your blue checkmark in public. People noticed, they whispered, they judged. Let's start with a queen who really understood what it meant to go from the height of glamour to the depths of medieval, "Oops, guess you're a nun now" punishment. Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor of Aquitaine is one of those queens historians love to oversell. She's called dazzling, brilliant, charming. But really, if you strip away the flowery descriptions, she was mostly very good at making powerful men extremely nervous, which honestly is a talent in itself. She started out as Duchess of Aquitaine, fabulously rich, young, and basically the Beyoncé of 12th century France. Then she married Louis VII of France, and Louis, bless him, was not exactly built for Eleanor. He was pious, awkward, kind of monkish. Imagine Eleanor, this lively, politically sharp duchess, stuck with a husband who wanted to spend most of his free time praying. Let's just say sparks did not fly. Now, Louis actually dragged Eleanor on the Second Crusade, which sounds exciting, but was more like a medieval group vacation with swords and way too much heat stroke. Eleanor didn't exactly shine as the obedient little consort. Rumours swirled that she was too friendly with her uncle Raymond of Antioch. Medieval chroniclers, who loved nothing more than blaming women for everything, painted Eleanor as some kind of scandalous temptress. Louis, predictably, did not like this PR nightmare, so when the marriage finally collapsed, he didn't exactly shave her head, but Eleanor was very nearly shoved into a convent. Being locked in a convent was the medieval version of sending someone to the basement so the kingdom could stop gossiping. It was a favourite punishment for wayward queens, because apparently there's no better solution for "my wife is too independent" than dumping her in a damp stone building with chanting nuns. But Eleanor escaped that fate. She got her annulment, kept her lands, and within 8 weeks, yes, 8 weeks, because why waste time, she married Henry Plantagenet, soon to be King of England. And from there she would spend the next few decades running political intrigues, raising rebellions against her husband, and occasionally winding up in a different kind of medieval punishment, long-term imprisonment. Yes, Henry eventually locked her up for about 16 years. 16. Just imagine the sheer boredom of being stuck in castles with no TikTok, no escape, just monks droning outside your door. Eleanor wasn't shaved, but the humiliation of being locked away while her sons rebelled and her husband flaunted mistresses. Well, that was its own kind of punishment. So Eleanor avoided the shaved head route, but she set the stage for a medieval pattern. Powerful queen makes men uncomfortable, men panic, and suddenly she's in a convent, a tower, or shaved like a sheep at spring shearing. Now let's glide forward to another unfortunate royal, Joan of Navarre. Joan was the second wife of Henry IV of England, which already put her in a precarious spot. Second wives are never exactly beloved in history, and Joan had the added problem of being foreign. English nobles weren't thrilled about her Navarrese accent, her expensive tastes, and oh yes, her suspicious interest in astrology. For a while things were fine. Joan played the queen role well enough, but when Henry IV died and her stepson Henry V came to power, suddenly Joan found herself accused of witchcraft. Because of course, if a middle-aged widow owns a few astrological charts, and maybe doesn't flatter her stepson enough, she must clearly be hexing the crown jewels. Now, medieval England didn't go full Inquisition on her. Instead, they went with the subtler punishment. Joan was stripped of her income, her dower lands, and essentially placed under house arrest. She wasn't quite shaved, but the humiliation was public enough. Imagine being a queen dowager, and suddenly everyone knows you've been cut off financially. That's like being unfollowed by your entire court in one afternoon. Eventually, Henry V mellowed out and released her, probably because he had wars in France to focus on. But for years, Joan's punishment wasn't about dungeons or torture. It was about slow, grinding humiliation, being treated not as a queen, but as a burden, which in medieval politics was sometimes worse. Let's float further back in time for a queen who really did get the tonsure treatment. Joan of England, also known as Joanna, daughter of King John. Joanna was married off to Llywelyn the Great, Prince of Wales. It was one of those classic political marriages meant to glue kingdoms together with awkward family dinners. Joanna was loyal enough, but she got caught having an affair with a certain William de Braos. And unfortunately for her, de Braos wasn't just some random knight. He was a nobleman, and worse, he had been a political enemy of her husband. When Llywelyn found out, William de Braos got hanged in public Happy Easter. Everyone, because it literally happened on Easter Sunday in Joanna. She got her hair chopped off and was shoved into a convent. This was classic medieval PR. You couldn't just quietly forgive a queen for adultery. That would make you look weak. You had to punish her visibly. And shaving her hair was a way of saying, this woman is no longer glamorous, no longer royal, no longer someone you should envy. Joanna did eventually return to favour and even reconcile with Llywelyn. But the whole hair-shaving convent episode stayed as a giant medieval Yelp review attached to her name. Adulteress, briefly nun, occasionally forgiven. And then there's Isabella of France. Ah, Isabella, the so-called she-wolf of France. Which, side note, is one of those nicknames that sounds cool until you realise it was invented by men who thought powerful woman equaled dangerous animal. Isabella married Edward II of England, a man best known for really liking his favourites, like Piers Gaveston and later Hugh Despenser. And when I say favourites, I mean the kind of favourites who get showered with lands, jewels, and suspiciously intense emotional devotion. Poor Isabella was sidelined, ignored, and basically treated as a decorative womb. Eventually, Isabella had enough. She allied with her lover, Roger Mortimer, invaded England, and overthrew Edward II, which I have to admit was a bold career move. But power, as always, comes with consequences. When Isabella's son Edward III grew up, he staged his own coup. Mortimer was executed, and Isabella, well, she didn't get the shaved head punishment, but she was confined. Not quite prison, not quite palace, more like a long, quiet time out in the countryside. It's the gentler version of medieval queen punishment. Instead of public humiliation, Isabella's disgrace was slow erasure. No more politics, no more power, just embroidery, prayers, and the occasional sigh over what could have been. What ties all these women together is the medieval obsession with controlling the image of queenship. A queen wasn't just a wife, she was supposed to be a symbol of virtue, of fertility, of dynastic stability. So when a queen stepped outside that box, the punishments were theatrical. Shaved hair, convents, house arrest, all designed to say, see, she's no longer dangerous, we've neutralized her. It was less about justice, more about optics. And honestly, not much has changed. Swap out the cloister for a tabloid scandal, and you've got the same cycle of building women up as icons, then gleefully watching them fall. All right, let's pause here. We've drifted through Eleanor's imprisonments, Joan of Navarre's witchcraft accusations, Joanna of England's very bad haircut, and Isabella's quiet exile. Next, we'll keep gliding into even stranger stories, queens who were punished not for adultery, but for simply being in the wrong family feud, queens who wound up barefoot in public penance